It's an interesting story. I don't know how it happened. It's just amazing. We were Nishma. So, when a person has a yahrzeit, you say either Mishnayos or Tilim for his neshama, or you tell over his Maisim Tovim. Tell over his good deeds. That's also a Ilui Nishmas of the Nifter. So I'll tell you a story that was just written up. There was a Jew who was not a Lubavitcher Chassid, but the Rebbe told him he should go. This was after World War II. The Rebbe told him he should go to Brazil and be the car of the Jews in Brazil. After the war, they needed a lot of chizuk and kiruv. So he took the Rebbe's advice and he went out on a shlichus, not being a Lubavitcher Chassid. And of course, he developed a relationship with the Rebbe, and they had communications over the years. And one day, parents come to this shliach out there, and they say to him, "We got a problem. Our daughter wants to marry a guy. What can we, help us out?" So he said, "Well, I'll try to speak to her." So we went to speak to her, and he spent a few hours talking to her, and she was very respectful. But at the end, she says, "I'm still sticking with my decision. I'm going to marry him anyway." Very nice to him. Well, what can he do? He tried his best and thought of all kinds of answers what to do. Nothing worked. He says, "Well, I'll call up the Rebbe. Call up the Rebbe." So he calls the Rebbe. The Rebbe says to him on the phone, "Tell her that there's a Jew in Brooklyn who can't sleep because you're going to marry a guy." So he said, "What?" After I just spent hours with her, and I tell her there's some Jew in Brooklyn, she doesn't even know where Brooklyn is and what Brooklyn, who's the Jew, what? Tell her there's a Jew in Brooklyn who can't sleep because you want to marry the guy. So he says to her, "But what? If she's going to ask me what's his name, what does he look like?" So she says, "Tell me, my name is Mendel Schneerson." That's all. Tell her that. Very kind of strange. This is going to be mashpia on this girl, thousands of miles away, who doesn't know anything about Yiddishkeit or Bavitcher Rebbe. But he said to do it, so he went to her and he knocked on the door and she opened the door. As soon as she opened the door, she saw his face again. "Again, you here?" She started screaming at him and snapping at him. And I told you, I made up my mind. Nothing's going to change my mind. Leave me alone. Get off my back. So, all right, he gave up, but he's on the way out. He said, one thing and one last request. I want to say one thing before I go. There's a Jew in Crown Heights in Brooklyn who cannot sleep because you're going to marry this guy. That's the Rebbe's request. That's enough. He said, "What are you talking about? Who, what, where, what does he look like?" So he happened to have a picture in his wallet that he had there for years. Old picture of Lubavitch Rebbe. He pulled out the picture and showed it to her. She was in shock. Why was she in shock?
It was her dreams.
She said, in this last period, she's been having this dream constantly of a face that she sees in this dream with piercing eyes, with tears in his eyes. And she cannot get rid of this dream. It comes back over and over, and she doesn't know what it is or where it is. And she sees the picture. It's him. It was him. And that's it. She said, "I'm not going to forsake my nation." And that's it. She changed her plans.
Wow. Wow.
That is what you call a nes. Now, why should she be having this dream? Why should she be having this dream and seeing the Rebbe's picture in her dream? Why should she be seeing it? You have to say, and I'm going to tell you something, this is really an amazing thing. Many years ago, when the political arena here was very, very, aroused, and there was tremendous friction.
Unlike now.
Well, then it was also because Chabad joined Agudas Yisrael. They joined them in the politically, Chabad joined B'nai Israel. And Rav Shach, who was very much against Chabad, he said, if they're going to join, we have to make a new party. We have to make a new party. And he was adamant, we have to make a new party, and there was a split. The religious parties, they were together, and now they split. Chassidim and the literature are now going to be split. That's it. So there was, a lot of friction in society, even among the religious world. Who to vote for? This now, all right. A Rosh Yeshiva of Rav Shach, Chassidim, a literature Rosh Yeshiva, comes to my house, sits down with me and my wife, and he says, I have to talk to you about the coming elections. I want to tell you that the Lubavitcher Rebbe is the Gadol Hador. He's a literature Rosh Yeshiva of Rav Shach's camp. There is nobody in this generation who comes anywhere near the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This is a literature Rosh Yeshiva who's anti-Chabad. Says, the only problem with Chabad is the Mashiachas. They're always pushing Mashiach and maybe the Rebbe's Mashiach and all that. But as far as the person himself is concerned, he is Ha-Gadol Shebadar. There's nobody who comes near him. You could see by all the accomplishments all over the world, thousands and thousands, and Chabad houses and people who are becoming closer to Yiddishkeit and so on and so forth. There's nobody who has that effect on the entire world. So he is the giant of giants. That was this. I tell you, I lived in Crown Heights for 28 years. I saw the Lubavitcher Rebbe maybe thousands of times. I used to pass him in the street on Shabbos. Say good Shabbos to him, he would say good Shabbos to me. And for some reason, I understand the reason, I never went into him to ask for a bracha. People stood online every week. You could go in. You have to wait online. You go in. Why didn't I go in? Because I was brought up in Litvish yeshivas. My parents were still alive. I had my parents. I had my Rosh Yeshiva, who I was very close to. So my life was full. I didn't have any gap. I didn't have any spiritual gap that I needed somebody else. So I never went into him, but I respected him. Admor. And after hearing this Rosh Yeshiva who came to my house here in Israel, explained to me who the Lubavitcher Rebbe was, he opened up my eyes. I needed a literature Rosh Yeshiva to open up my eyes. And I said, oy vey Zmir. I passed up so many opportunities. I could have gone in so many times. Just once to get a bracha from him. Once to ask him an eitzah. Once. I never did it. I felt so bad. How could you be close to the top and not use it, not take advantage of it? You have such an opportunity. Well, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw my pain, and he did me a favor. He did me a favor. What was the favor? It's not really what I wanted, but it's better than nothing. I was living here in Eretz Israel for a couple of years already, and my sister was marrying off her first son. So she wanted me very much to come to the Chasana. So I went back to the Chasana, and I was in Crown Heights for Shabbos. That Shabbos, he was nifter.
Oh.
And on Sunday was his Levaya, and I had the schus to be at the Rebbe's Levaya. Oh. That was when Rebbe's what do you call it, the consolation. Okay, it's better than nothing, but
right.
It's nothing like meeting him in person. Anyway, so why am I bringing that up? I'm bringing that up because why? Because a Gadol Hador feels for everybody, and he, even not realizing it, can come into the dream of this young lady, not knowing who she was or what that she even existed. But because he's the Gadol Hador, and he has such an effect over the entire door, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made his image appear in this girl's dreams, and then when she saw the picture itself, that finalized it. And she knew that this is the emes, this is the truth. And then she changed her plans and she backed down. And from my understanding of the story, she didn't go through with the marriage. That's it. The Ili Nishmas, Rabbi Menachem Mendel ben Levi Yitzchak Schneerson.
Amen. Amen.
Okay. He should be Melamed Chus and all of Am Yisrael. He should be, in his chus, something should happen to this government. Either it shouldn't be successful or it shouldn't come into power altogether or whatever. But in his chus, it's not just a coincidence that on his Yorsa today is supposed to be the swearing in of the government.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence.
Anything can happen in the next 6 hours.
That's right. That's right. I'm sure there's a connection between the two. Okay. Let's get back to what we're learning about the Baal Shem Tov. Also, Baal Shem Tov. Chabad is the closest to the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal HaTanya was his, in the third generation after the Maggid Mizrich, was the Baal HaTanya. So we were learning about Tefillah. Let's review a little bit. It's so important to get into it and to be familiar with it all the time. The main thing so far that we have accomplished is the inyan of Sohar Ta'asel HaTeva. The Baal Shem Tov told us, when it comes to, excuse me, you're a newcomer. What's your name?
My name is Gabriel Ephraim.
Gabriel Ephraim. Okay, Gabriel Shalom Aleichem. You weren't here the last 2 weeks. This is our third Shabbos, third lesson. In the first two, we came to a very important principle the Baal Shem Tov is telling us. That's the following. A word is not just letters on a page. A word has a body, a word has a life to it, but it's all potential. We have the opportunity to make the word come alive. And in Parshas Noach, there's a pasuk that says, Bo el hateva, come into the ark. You familiar with Parshas Noach?
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Bo atova beischa el hateva, come into the word. So teva means also an ark. It also means a word. So the Baal Shem Tov tells us when we are mispal, we daven, we have to put ourselves into the word. How do you do that? How do you put yourself into the word? So we had a practice session last time. We're going to do it again now, a practice session. Let's close our eyes for a moment. Everyone close your eyes, practice it again. Let's close your eyes and look at the word, at the letter Beis. Look at the word Beis in your mind. The mind's eye, see the word Beis, and now expand it, make it big. Make the letter big, the letter out the Beis big, and think of yourself walking into it, or jumping into the Beis. It's big enough to hold you. You put your whole essence into the Beis. That's what you do with the word Beis. But let's say the word Reish, Baruch, take the Reish.
Wait a minute. Do we come out of the base?
No, you stay there.
Stay there.
And you go from the Beis to the Reish.
Ah, okay.
And then you go from the Reish to the Vav, Baruch. You make the Vav big. And go into the Vav. And then you make the Chaf, the final Chaf, big. So that you go into it. And you do that, you are making this word come alive. The letters become alive and they join together. And then they are going up to Shemayim, and they do what they have to do up there. But that's what you have to do. Now we said last time that this takes a lot of time. If you do that with every word in Shemona Esrei, it will take you a couple of hours to finish Shemona Esrei. So we came to a compromise that the Rabbi Yosef Chaim in Baghdad, the Ben Ish Chai, recommends. So you can't do it for the entire Shemona Esrei because you don't have the time. If you did nothing all day long, you had no problems with Parnasa or whatever it is, and you had all day long to daven, to learn, to do mitzvahs, like the Dora Midbar. You had no concerns whatsoever. Then you could spend a couple of hours davening and not be concerned. Like the Chassidim Harishon in the Gemara says, they spent 3 hours in davening. Sha'ah lefnei tefillah, the tefillah, and sha'ah achrei tefillah. So that 3 hours a day, Shachris, 3 hours a day Mincha, and 3 hours a day Ma'ariv, 9 hours a day. And the rest of the day, they learned Torah. That's all they had. They didn't do anything else. So how did they work, and how did they have enough time to learn? 9 hours a day spending. So the Gemara says they had a very close relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu because they put their whole essence into the davening. Therefore, Hashem gave a bracha into anything they did, and when they learned it, they remembered it. They didn't have to review it. And when they did something to make a little parnasa, it was successful immediately. Successful. So therefore, they were able to spend 9 hours a day doing tefillah. And we have to understand also another thing. When the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, Al Shloisha Dvarim Ha'olam Oimei, Al Torah V'al Avodah V'al Gemilas Chasadim. 3 pillars keep the world alive, or keep it up. Learning Torah, we understand that. Avodah is the Avodas HaKarbanos and Tefillah. Can you imagine that the Tefillahs that we see in the shuls around us, they are strong enough to keep the world up? Such Tefillahs? I would think that it only happens if you have Tefillah, which is like the Baal Shem Tov is saying. Tefillah b'kol halev. You put your whole essence into it. Such a tefillah can keep the world up. Such a tefillah has power to start here and bring up to Shemayim what has to be brought up there, and then Hashem sends down the energy to keep the world up. Now I'll tell you something else, how beautiful it is. This I saw from the Maharal many, many years ago. I saw this, the Maharal Prague, who wrote in the Pirkei Avos a Hakdama. And he says the following. Think about an atom. Did you ever see pictures of the atom? You go into some places, you have pictures of the atom. It looks like some kind of circular thing going in all different directions, right? Something circular going in all different directions, this way, and then that way, and then this way, and the sideways. The atom is pictured that way so people can get an idea of what's going on. So you have the atom, you have the nucleus, you have the protons and neutrons, and they're all circulating around the nucleus. Now look at this. This is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. The Maharal says, you think the atom is what is the nucleus of everything. It's the smallest thing, the atom, correct? What gives the atom its energy? The atom is something which is alive, it's moving, right? What gives the atom its energy? This is amazing, amazing. Shinoth Maharal was a great, great Kabbalist, a great Kabbalist. So he says there are 3 kinds of energies. One kind of energy starts on the top and it comes down. Another kind of energy starts down here and goes up. And there's another kind of energy which goes this way, diagonally. Vertical, right? And then diagonal. Listen to this, it's so beautiful. Where does Torah start from? Torah comes from Shemayim. Hashem created the Torah and gave it to us. So the energy of the Torah comes from up, down. Where does Tefillah start? Avodah, Tefillah. From us. So we're sending energy from here up there. Where do mitzvos bein adam lechavero, gemilas chesed? Where's the energy there? That's from one to the other. It's not going up or down. It's going from side to side, from one person to the other. Those are the 3 directions of the atom. Those are the 3 directions of the atom. There's something going up. There's something going from the top down. And there's something going from the down up. That's the Torah and the Avodah and the Gemilas Chasadim. Isn't that amazing? What gives the atom its power? The Torah, the Avodah, and the Gemilas Chasadim. Absolutely amazing. But it has to be a real avodah. It's got to be tefillah b'kol halev. Tefillah b'kol halev, with the entire heart. You have to put everything into it. You have to put your entire heart into the tefillah. Put your entire heart into the tefillah. That means take yourself and say, I'm saying Baruch, I am a nothing. I am absolutely nothing. I want to just melt into the words. I want to melt into the words. That's all I want to do. I want to take myself, put myself into the words, just like as if bringing a carbon. Bringing a carbon. You know, when you bring a carbon, so the person says, it says in the Torah, "V'samach es yada al rosh hapar." You have to have smicha. What does it mean, smicha? You have to lean on the animal with the entire weight. Why do you have to lean on the animal with the entire weight? You know why? Because really you should be on the altar. You did something which you're not supposed to do. You have to hand in the towel. You have failed your mission. You failed your mission. So Hashem says, you know what? I don't want the world to end. People do averos, it's going to happen. But I'll take from them a substitute. I'll take a carbon. But I want them to feel as if they are the carbon. So put your entire weight, the samach al rosh hapar, put it onto the animal, and think of yourself as going into the animal. So when they sacrifice the animal and they burn the animal, think of yourself as being on the mizbeach. That's how we have to think of the avodah, the words of the tefillah. Put ourselves into it, and then the word becomes alive, and then it really dances up, it goes up to Shemayim, and it makes all the tikkunim that have to be made, and Hashem sends down the brachos. So we have a quick review of what we learned, a little bit extra, in the last couple of weeks. Do you have these pages still? You have these pages? Yeah. Are there any pages available anymore? Anyone have any pages? No? Nobody knows what they are. They weren't here. We collected them last time. Not here. That's yours. That's yours, correct? That's yours. All right. You have to find the other pages. So we have one of our Talmidim who bought the Sefer. So he's a very fortunate person. He can look in the Sefer. But we have to have some kind of a text. We have to have some kind of text. If we really want to get into it as we're supposed to, we have to have the Sefer. So again, I urge you to go out to the store and buy the Baal Shem Tov al HaTorah. Baal Shem Tov al HaTorah. He bought it in one volume. I have it in 2 volumes. I have the old edition. But it doesn't make a difference. The letters on the inside are the same. The numbering is the same, but he got it in 1 volume.
No, it's even more. I found an English translation on the internet.
An English translation of the Baal Shem Tov?
Yeah.
Wow, that's something new. I didn't know.
I have part of it, yeah.
Really, that's interesting. I didn't know that they have it.
No,
Could I see that? English translation of the Baal Shem Tov? I didn't know that there was one. Very interesting. Yes, this is very good. So you have the book in English?
it's on my computer.
Ah, you got it. It's been translated on the computer. Okay. Okay, fine. All right. Good. All right. So let's see. Let's see what we can do here with the pages. Yeah. Well, on the pages that we have here, you have here in this set, number Chaf Beis. Number Chaf Beis, here on these pages, Chaf Beis. Take a look at Chaf Beis, and I'll tell you where to look in your Sefer. Excuse me, look at Chaf Beis on page, I don't know what pages you have. Look, Ois Chaf Beis. You have Ois Chaf Beis? Right. Right. Now here's a very interesting thing. You'll find that on the second Ois Chaf Beis. You have it, Ois Chaf Beis? It's at the bottom. At the bottom here. Look, look. Of course, page on the bottom. The Vakish Me'osis Mamish.
Page 2 on the bottom.
The bottom of page 2. He says something here which could be misunderstood, and it might look like it's apicursus. He says, the Baal Shem Tov says, Levakesh min ha'osyos mamish. You don't have to pray to God, so to speak. He says, pray to the osyos. Ask the osyos to answer you. What does that mean, the osyos? What does it mean? Is it the letters that answer me? So he says, K'mo sheshamati perish Adoni of Israel, perish min sod Eloka shebahem. Inside the osyos, you have Hashem is inside the osyos. So you're not actually asking the letters to answer you. Every letter must have Hashem in it, otherwise it could not be formed as a letter. The letters themselves are occupied by Hashem himself. So you are receiving min hashamayim through your neshama. You are receiving Eloka. You're receiving the energies from Hashem. It goes into your neshama. It gives you the ability to speak. A ruach mamalala, as it says in Bereshis, speak. And when you utter the words, you are forming those letters, and inside those letters is the Shekhinah, which came through you. So why do I have to say, I'm standing in front of the Aron Kodesh, Da lifnei mi'ata omeid, right? Or I'm standing at the Kotel, and I'm speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or any place where there's an Aron Kodesh. You don't have to. Hashem is inside the words that you're saying. It's the same God. What's the difference between going to the Kotel or going to the Kivrei Tzadikim or just davening by yourself? The difference is the concentration, the quality of the Shekhinah. That's the difference. At the Kotel, you have a greater revelation, a greater existence of the Shekhinah. It's more revealed. Not that the amount is the same. The Shekhinah is the same all over, but it's more revealed at the Kotel. But in your words also there is the Shekhinah. In your words there's a Shekhinah too. So what's coming out of your mouth is the koach of the Shekhinah that's coming through from Shemayim. And when you form those letters, inside those letters is the Shekhinah. So you can be thinking in your mind, the tefillah that I'm saying it to the words, to the Hashem that's inside the words themselves. Yeah.
Are we supposed to understand that the Baal Shem Tov is saying that for us, regular people, it's easier to access, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the letters? Is that or more? Why is he telling us to go through the letters versus, as we said before this, you think we demonstrate HaKadosh Baruch Hu?
Right. Well, I think he's trying to tell you that tefillah is something which is, first of all, very, very personal, and it's not dependent on where you are. You could be any place in the world, and you can access Hashem through your own words. You can be staying out in the wilderness, in no place. If you start speaking to Hashem, if you are being responded to Hashem, you are creating an existence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu by saying the words. So you actually are not speaking to the avodah zarah of the words, if it would be just the words themselves. It's Hashem which is inside the words. So by you saying those words, you are creating, at the same time, it's simultaneous. By saying the letters, saying the words, you're creating right now a new form of the Shekhinah. It takes form that before it was just very nebulous. Now you are forming it and making it more condensed and more concise into the form of letters. And you can be thinking, the words that I'm saying, I know Hashem is inside those words. The Shekhinah is inside those words. And I'm asking, you don't have to be looking or to Shemayim. It's not necessary. You can be looking at the words themselves. Hashem is He's teaching you a new awareness of the Shekhinah which you didn't have before. You weren't aware that the Shekhinah is inside my words. You think I say the words, Da lifnei mi ata omeid. I'm standing in front of the Shekhinah. So he's telling you a big chiddush. He's telling you don't have to be standing in front of the Shekhinah. That's also true. It's not that it's untrue. You are standing in front of the Shekhinah, but the Shekhinah is also in your words.
So is that because these are the words of Chazal and they have that koach? Or if I would daven to Hashem in my own language, my own words, I could do that too?
You could do that also. Tefillah is b'kol Hashem.
So it comes from what's your kavanah, your life.
That's correct. However, using the words of Chazal is a plus. Why? Because they have formulated with their Ruach HaKodesh, with their Nevi'im, the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, that these words will make the proper tikkunim. These will make the proper tikkunim in the world. We're not only davening for ourselves. The world needs tikkunim. So we're davening most of our tefillah really should be for the tikkun olam. For the Shekhinah, yes.
So we can say that if we're looking at the letter, you're asking us in a way, or suggesting to maybe reconstructing the letter in terms of how we look at its components, parts, be it the Chachma Bina Dat, Chesed Gevurah, Tiferet, which are all part of the letters.
Well, you have to say that every letter has a complete network. That's correct. Everyone has a complete network. But we're not looking at the compartments, the particulars of the letter at this point. What we're looking for right now, at this is what his focus is right now, is
Just that Hashem's presence.
Hashem is in the letter, correct. Hashem is in the letter. I mean, you can, of course, decompartmentalize it, but that's not what he wants to tell us now. It's a tremendous awareness. People aren't aware of that. You know, you think you're standing, I'm something separate, and I'm addressing God.
Right.
I daven, I address God. He's telling you a big chiddush, tremendous chiddush. You are creating a presence of God by saying the words.
We're connecting to it.
Well, you're saying it. So you're creating a new presence that didn't exist before. Because even though the Shekhinah is all over, but you are now bringing it down into a concentrated form of these letters. And you can seek the Shekhinah inside the letters. You don't have to think, I'm going up. The Shekhinah is right here with the letters that I'm speaking. As they come out of my mouth, the Shekhinah is already there in the letters themselves. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, I didn't say it. I couldn't make up such a thing myself. I could say it. Look at the words. Look at the words. It says it. Levakesh min ha'oisius mamish. Kamo shamati perusha min adoni avi zakeni. The Baal Shem Tov perush min sod Elokah shebahem. Sheyazor lehem medaber ha'oisius bekavanas emes lishma. Va'ayedei ze nimtakin kol hadinin b'shorsha. Who wrote this? The grandson of the Baal Shem Tov was also a big Rebbe, the Degel Machne Ephraim.
So it's learning a new way of reading.
Yeah. Now, somebody asked here, one of the first sessions we have, and it's very important to this. Look at the next line. Shemaiti, this is Chav Gimel. Next page. Chav Gimel, on page 3. See Chav Gimel on page 3? Shemaiti mi'adoni avi zakeni, he heard from his grandfather. Ki ha'ais yais beli perush. This is for you, Chanoch.
Wow.
The letters, no explanation, no translation. No translation is necessary.
Just to experience the letter.
Just
The sound.
why? Because when the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, they formulated these words, they knew, they had all the cheshbonos, they knew all the Kabbalistic, I would say, intonations, everything which is connected to these letters. And it's already in the letter. If I go into the letter, you know what we call it in English, in America we used to call it hitching a ride.
Yeah, you may forget something.
Today over here, when they say it in Hebrew, they say a tramp. Chap a tramp. You're standing on the road, you put your finger out, you want someone to pick you up, you jump into the car. Where you going? I'm going that way. Okay, jump in. So that's what we're doing. We're hitching a ride on the letters that Chazal are driving the car with their words.
There's a song about that.
Well,
Put right on the star or something.
Could be, all right, anyway. So that's what you're doing. You don't have to know what the word means. When you get into a car, you have to know how to drive. I don't have to know. There's a driver. He knows how to drive.
We
Right?
hope.
Yeah. I don't have to know, right? I just know that I'm fitting in with him. He's driving the car, and I'm going to go with him. He'll get me to my destination. That's the way it is. The letters are already pre-imbued with the energies they need to do the tikkun. I'm just grabbing a ride, hopping a tramp.
Pre-digested.
It's right, correct. It has everything it has. It has all the energies. I'm just jumping in there, that's all. Yes.
There was a Rabbi Ari Raskin who wrote a book about letters called Letters of Fire.
Yes. What is his name?
Ari Raskin.
No, I think there's another one. There's another
Rabbi
one.
Ginsburg has it.
There's somebody invited, forgot. I think his name, not somebody else. Letters of Fire also. Maybe they all have the same name. Not Ginsburg. No, not Ginsburg. Not Ginsburg. No, I forgot what his name was. And I also have a safe link, Letters of Fire. Okay, it's true. Anyway, the point is the letters have their own koyach. And they don't need you. What you are doing is going into the letter and, as we're saying, grabbing a ride, getting a hitch with the letters. But what you have to do is, you can't get a hitch with a ride and have your foot hanging outside. You got to have your whole body in there.
Unless it's a motorcycle.
Right? Right? You have to put your whole body in the car. You can't just leave your foot hanging out or whatever it is. You'll get cut off. You have to put your whole self into that's the shot in the words. When you go into the letter, you have to go into the letter completely into the letter, and you have to practice that. It has to be practiced, and you can do it. And I'm saying, as the Ben Ish Chai said, a compromise. We cannot do it time-wise for the entire Shemona Esrei. Possible it is, but it's not practical. So let's do it. Let's start off with one bracha. One bracha, you can do it. So it'll take you more than 5 minutes to daven Shemona Esrei. As in most cases, in most shuls, how long does Shemona Esrei take? 5 minutes? So it'll take you 10 minutes. You'll give 5 minutes to the first bracha, and the rest of Shemona Esrei, you'll do it another 5 minutes. So it'll take you 10 minutes. Now you're going to say, well, what about Kedusha? What about Kaddish? And Modim? And Birchas Kohen? So you'll miss it. So what? So you'll miss it. But you know that you davened. What's the point of making Kedusha and Kaddish, but you didn't daven? What's the whole point? The point is you're here for Tefillah. Tefillah is a mitzvah d'oraisa. It's not dependent on Kaddish, not Kedusha, not Modim, not Birchas Kohen. It's a mitzvah d'oraisa. You want to do the mitzvah d'oraisa properly, so daven properly. Put your whole essence into the word.
You can daven properly, and then when the congregation gets to Kedusha, you could just say it in your
All right, fine. But, you're right. That's on the condition that you hear. If you're putting your whole self into the words and you're really, really concentrating, you won't hear it. You won't hear it. There's a famous Chassam Sofer. The Chassam Sofer, I've just read recently, the Chassam Sofer was giving a shir in his time, and the Talmidim, all of a sudden, were talking amongst themselves, and all of a sudden they picked themselves up, and they ran out of the class. They ran out. So one person stayed behind, and he didn't want to leave the Rebbe alone. The Rebbe was there. He said, what happened? Where'd they all go? What happened? Where'd they all go? He says, didn't you hear? There's some kind of explosion or something happened outside. Everyone's running. They're afraid the whole place is going to explode. They ran out. So the Chassam Sofer says, anyone who can hear this rubble outside, this tremendous, that means they weren't learning. They're not learning. They weren't listening to the shir. If you get into the shir, you're learning Torah like you're supposed to. You're supposed to learn it with your whole essence. You can't hear anything else. You don't hear anything else. When you're really totally involved in something, you don't hear. I am b'mispal HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help me. I have not yet got to that point that that when I'm davening, I'm completely detached and I don't know what's going on in the world. When they come to Kedusha, I hear it. I hear it. And it bothers me that I hear it, but I do hear it, so I stop and I'm mechavin as if I was saying it. That's what you're supposed to do if you do hear it. But really, you're not supposed to hear it. Yeah.
So I've been reading, I think it's called it's about the Tanya, and it's by a Russian author. His name is Shifrin.
Yeah.
You know of him?
No.
Eduardo Shifrin?
No.
And he wrote a book on the Tanya, but looking at the Tanya, the word energy is used all the time in prayers. But he's a scientist, and he looks at from the transfer of information. So to listen for the information that is coming, and that is always growing.
Mm-hmm.
So it helped my thinking because energy is it's a very amorphous term.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think of information, that's a little bit more connecting and personal.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think of that?
Okay, I can hear it. I can accept it. I mean, he said that's what the message of Tanya is, information.
He says they're information modules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they all, you know how they contain everything, they contain parts.
Mm-hmm.
So he explains that, and he traces it back to physical sciences.
Uh-huh.
And he shows that there's a combination. So it's interesting.
I want to say one thing here. We have now, Baruch Hashem, we have here 4, 7, 8. We would have 9. It's a very important, it's a very big inyan to say Kaddish D'Rabbanan after you finish learning. The Gemara says to say Kaddish D'Rabbanan after learning, it's Mekayim the world. It gives a special Kiddush Hashem because you have Torah and Yizgadal Shmei Rabbah. You make a Kiddush Hashem and Torah together. Those things make a kiyum for the world. So it would be very nice if we could have a minyan here, at least 9 of you.
We got a million.
But we don't have now.
So if you can find someone
Get it
here,
closer.
that is covered.
Yeah, well, he just left, so that would have been. Oh, Rabbi Sorrel. But we don't have a minyan yet. But if we have a minyan, so try to speak to your friends, and we should have a minyan for the shir, so we could say Kaddish D'Rabbanan afterwards. A davar chashuv ma'od ma'od ma'od. Okay. So he says again here in Chav Gimel, Shemaiti Avizakeni, your Oishiyos believe Perush. You see, Chayach, you don't have to understand Hebrew for this. You don't have to understand Hebrew. All you have to do is read the words, that's all. Oishiyos believe Perush. You don't have to know the words, what they mean. Now look, he gives you a little bit of an explanation why. Look, Shemaiti in Chav Dalet. Look at your page. Shemaiti, this is something like he was saying to Chanoch. Ki kol teva, every word, nichlal mikol ha'olam. Do you hear that? Every word is really a minuscule of the entire world. So what are you going to now add Perushim? The whole world is in that letter. What does it mean that the whole world is in that word? You know why? Because let's try to understand it. It's a very deep concept. It's a very deep concept. I'm going to tell you something now that it may be difficult for you to understand. The first time I learned it, it was a shocker to me, and I tried to give it over to my Talmidim also, who were learning this with us, and everybody was, wow. We have, because of our egotistical natures that we're born with, as we said before, we consider ourselves as separate entities. Everybody is a separate person, everyone, right? Everyone's a separate person. And you have to be machabed every person. Everyone's a Tzelem Elokim. Right? Fine. That's not wrong. It is true. But it's also true, and very important to understand this truth also. We're all part of one, let's call it entity. All of us equally part of one entity. And you know what that entity is? It's called the Shekhinah. each one of us has a separate Tzelem Elokim in him. But that means that you have a concentration in you, that somebody else has a concentration in them. Everybody has a certain concentration. But we are all part of one thing. We are all joined by being a chelik of the Shekhinah. Do not think of the thing of the Shekhinah as something separate, something spiritual, and you are a separate entity. That's wrong. That's wrong. We are part and parcel of the Shekhinah itself. And therefore, every word that we say is connected to the entire world, to the entire creation. So what are you going to add, a perush? What do you need a perush? The whole world, everything is in there. Everything is in there. We sort of imagine that we are separate and we go into the world. What you're really doing is saying, I want to now, because even if you don't do it, the truth of the matter is, even if you don't do it, and you don't think of it, it's true anyway. It's true anyway, because the Shekhinah is the Shekhinah. And the Shekhinah has many different forms. This is the Shekhinah. This is the Shekhinah. The chair is the Shekhinah. Everything. The air is the Shekhinah.
All that exists.
Everything. It's the Shekhinah in different forms. The words, therefore, are also the Shekhinah. So what are you going to add Perushim? Everything that you could possibly add is already there. All you have to do is make yourself aware of it. That's the whole point. In Tefillah is you make yourself aware of it. You blend into it and say, I want to actually consciously be aware of it. I want to be part of it. And therefore, he says, you don't need to be Perush. Because why? Every word is a minuscule, right, microcosm of the entire world. It's all there. In every single word, you can dissect it and you can get the whole world out from it. Like, we have Eseres HaDibros. So the Chazal tell us, the Rishonim tell us, that in the Eseres HaDibros is the root of the entire Taryag mitzvos. In 10 commandments, you have the root of all the Taryag. How could you, from 613, you can come down to 10? How do you do that? Well, if you know how to work it out, how to fish it out, you can see how the roots of the Eseres HaDibros are in the 10 commandments.
So it's a type of Simpson.
You can call it a tzimtzum, correct? It's a tzimtzum, correct? So every single word, therefore, is a tzimtzum of the entire world. Everything is in it. So therefore, what do you need a pirush for? You don't need a pirush. It's more meaningful to you, possibly. If you understand the words, so you can be more emotional about it, because you understand what you're saying. But you really don't have to. All you have to have is the knowledge that you are connecting consciously with the Shekhinah. That's all you need. You're connecting consciously with the Shekhinah. I'm saying I'm being mavatal myself into the letters. So I'm doing it consciously. I mean, I want to become part of the letters, and I don't want to think of anything else. I want only that in my mind. I'm thinking of the Beis, I'm thinking of the Reish, I'm thinking of the Vav, thinking of the Chaf. And when I say the Shem Hashem, wow, I want to become part of Hashem himself, part of the Yud, part of the Hey, part of the Vav, part of the Hey. And then you're there. And then you're there. Once you've done that, just try to complete the first bracha of Shemona Esrei, just doing that. So, Chanoch, you don't need the perush. You don't need translation.
But do our dues go up, Rabbi?
And you'll be successful. You'll finish davening, you'll feel, wow. Now, you really feel you accomplished something. Time? Yeah, Rabbi Israel is here, the timekeeper.